We don't know who did the work. You heard that any of that information is redacted. We don't know who did the work. It's a giant secret. We know that by the time the FBI gets involved, the profile, the text file, that's a snip to use to try to identify somebody is more than twice as big when it gets to the FBI from Othram. We don't know how.
I've got an itch I can't scratch, I'm missing a piece that completes a whole part of me, an open wound scar to see. Everybody come here, gather round, welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? Here's the thing that I want to make clear. If you guys haven't noticed, I've been starting the stream by laying out crystal clearly what the Hive Mind is. It is a contrarian thinking live stream where we think past the headlines, we question the narrative, and if you're going to get offended or rattled on behalf of others, this is not going to be the stream for you. But if you like to look into things, wear a tinfoil hat, and question what is really going on here, is there something going on in the background that's leading to all this weird stuff happening, then you are amongst friends and you have found your people, and welcome to the Hive Mind. I could tell you that after what you see tonight, if you've been on the fence, I don't think you're going to be on the fence anymore as far as the surviving roommates go. It's not to shame them. It's not to victim blame. It's to tell the truth in their own words. And we'll read their own words.
I was in shock.
As a reminder, please go and click subscribe on my YouTube channel. Join the Hive Discord. I put a Substack out if you are into Substack every Monday and Thursday. All of my streams and all of the other platforms that I use, I keep them free. All I ask is that you just press that button and subscribe. That's the best way how to support the stream. We have birdiebombshell.com, which is going to have some awesome updated merch here, hopefully by the end of this month. I have a couple really, really cool ideas as far as like Hive merch, and it's not to do anything other than just show that people who are like-minded can bind together, uncover the truth, and not be shamed by the mainstream media. Rather, actually not be gaslit anymore, and put your foot down and say, this is ridiculous, and we have brains, and you guys must think that we're dumb. But you're dumb. We're not dumb. We've been watching your same playbook for decades, and it's about time we start pointing our fingers at you and calling you out like the losers that you are who try to poison our minds with lies, to put it bluntly. But nonetheless, we also have, and that was maybe a little harsh, but also it's like, it's really harsh what they do to us. You know what I mean? Do you know how many things that the narrative on the news has ruined for us? Countless. God forbid the people who have to consume this shit ask a couple questions. Very excited to announce the third ever Hive Mind Roundtable. The first two were unbelievable. That is actually going to be next Sunday. So it's coming up quick. I moved it up because of Labor Day weekend. Moving on to the Hive Mind finds. It is very interesting. Charlie points out why in the new released documents are all the questions surrounding Kaylee, her relationships, her involvements. No questions about Maddie and her personal relationships or people. And I thought to myself, wow, that is rather true, like very true, actually. Because nothing was talked about her as far as on the 911 call. There's no mention of her. Right. But yet all the paper trail and the documents are heavily tipped in as far as the amount about Kaylee.
Well, even in the Moscow Police Department files that were released, they were more about Kaylee, questioning her finances, questioning all the, warrants. But in these new documents, it's even heavier.
They wrote, Dylan's statement states she was in the house when police arrived and started putting up tape, but doesn't that go against the 911 call? Didn't Hunter state he told them to get out and call? Which brings me to my next point. If they are inside when police arrive, they 100% saw all the blood, which the officer described in the lounge, which is all over the ping pong table and across the half wall and the bathroom, but yet didn't know anything happened. And though she was just passed out, the cop said her legs were covered in blood. So she obviously saw that too. You cannot say she didn't see all the blood as described. And if she was that scared, why is she chilling in the lounge in the midst of it all?
Correct.
And it does make you go, It's the reality of it. And as I said, it's not victim shaming. If this roommate knows something, or if they are being told not to say something and they're being quiet, the mainstream media doesn't get to dictate what's right and what's wrong when it comes to the truth. As far as, guys, I'm going to go through a slide of what I am calling the most unbelievable 8-hour gap in modern true crime. Is this 8-hour window? It's the black hole. It makes no sense.
It's the portal.
It is. That 8-hour window is as good of a descriptor as you can get to Moscow being a portal to hell. That's so true, Phoenix. And I have some clips that Charlie had included from the new police documents, and I'm going to read the top and the bottom paragraph here for everybody. So this is from supplement number 32. As you go up the stairs to the second floor, you enter a small living room area. There was a folding table set up on the west side of the area, partially blocking the entry to the west hallway. The table had multiple red solo cups on it in game formation for beer pong, along with a small steak knife. There were multiple areas of red liquid on the table that appeared to be blood. As I walked west from the living room, there was a half wall to my right. I could see multiple drops and runs of red liquid around or along the entire half wall. Across the half wall on the north side, I saw more red stains on the wall above the first and second floor staircase. The stains and liquid were consistent with cast off and appeared to be blood. Continuing west down the hallway, there was a bathroom to the left on the south end, with the hallway ending at a bedroom. On the north wall of the hallway, near the bedroom door, there appeared to be a red-colored transfer mark at approximately my shoulder height. I'll just read this whole thing. From the living room, looking into the west bedroom, I could see a female kernodle lying near the center of the room. Her legs and arms appeared to be covered in blood. As I entered the bedroom, I saw multiple drops of red liquid near the entrance and multiple red-colored drips on the door above and below the doorknob. A male, Chapin, was laying in the bed, partially covered by a blanket and comforter. His neck and chest were heavily covered in a red liquid. Multiple walls appeared to have red-colored cast-off, and there were multiple areas on the floors with pools of red-colored liquid. All the red-colored liquids appeared to be blood. Kernodle appeared to have multiple cuts to her hands, arms, and face. Chapin appeared to have a deep cut to the outer portion of his right knee and neck area. On a desk outside the north wall of the bedroom was Kernodle's University of Idaho, U of I identification, along with a rolled-up $2 bill and a powder consistent with a, I would guess, whatever that was. But she advised they stayed in the house when the police arrived, and the police, were putting the tape up. Pause. What? She advised they stayed in the house when the police arrived, and the police, were putting the tape up when they realized there had been a crime. And when they saw the ambulance arrive and leave, told them they would not leave unless there was no reason to stay. She then advised the vandal alert came out, and that is when they realized their friends were actually gone. What?
So I saw a video today, and Steve was talking about at 2:15, Hunter Johnson was there. And I thought, 2:15, is he talking about, he can't be talking about the afternoon. It had to been 2:15 in the morning. And I had to go back and listen to this video a few times. And we're not being told the story. We are definitely not being told the story. And it's scary after reading these documents, because Dylan says that she knew the killer and he was protecting her. What is up with this story?
And this is what I'm trying to get at here. These are from the police statements. We are not doing a conspiracy theory right now. We're trying to read the documents and piece together, and you have to forget anything that the news has told you, because you also have to remember the news, they didn't have these. They speculated just like they were shunning people who were speculating the same way they were. Their narrative was just emotionally palatable, and simp normies can palate that. Oh, there's a guy obsessed with serial killers, stalk them. It's a creep. Criminology student, so he knows how to get away with it. You know what I mean, Phoenix? And it's like, no, well, hang on. So take the people who did this out of it, right? It could be, call it Brian Koberger. Say it wasn't Brian Koberger. Take them out of it. I will equate this to when a husband goes missing, or a kid goes missing, or a wife goes missing. As uncomfortable as it is, who do you have to clear first every time in those crimes, Phoenix?
The immediate people that saw them last.
Exactly. You clear the significant other and you clear the family first. And if you look at King Road, because they're roommates, you look at that house as a, a family. It's the same thing, right? You got to clear the people who lived at that house first. And as uncomfortable as I'm sure that is, if the family had nothing to do with it, as an investigator, you must clear the people that are closest to them. And my question is, when you look at the statements that the roommates have given and how they change, and how they don't just change, they get downplayed. You go from Dylan hearing a scream yelling someone's in the house to, I thought I heard Kaylee and Murphy dancing. What? Wait, hang on. My red flags would be going off as much as they could. If I read that as a lawyer, I'd be like, this is DEFCON 5. Pull the alarms. Something's not right.
Where are these guys that were investigating and interrogating and questioning? And there were so many suspects in this case that had better reasons to be interrogated than Brian Koberger.
That leads me to what I'm calling the single most insane gap in modern true crime, is this 8-hour black hole. And I'll start with the mainstream gaslighting that we all are very aware of. And if you're not, and like I said, if you're just now tuning into the Hive for the first time, let me bring you up to speed in a sentence or two. The media has spent weeks portraying, or they spent years at this point, portraying Dylan and Bethany as the, quote, poor traumatized victims, quote, to deflect criticism. But the hard documents show they heard things, they saw things, and they sat on it for a half of a day. 8 effing hours. An unconscious person dispatch lie. Dylan literally saw the killer. Bethany heard shit too. It was the loudest house on campus, but that night it's just a silent crime scene. They're too scared to act. Fine. At 4 a.m., maybe. But 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 a.m., she's still frozen. That is not fear. That is narrative cover. And both roommates do nothing while their friends are dying 2 doors away. That's not blaming them, but those are real questions that need to be answered. You hear stuff. You see the guy after one of your roommates just said someone's in the house and was scared and running. Bethany sees a flash and hears a bang, and they don't do anything for a half of a day. Yet they're in the house when the police show up now? What is happening? Because this is the stuff that pisses me off. This is like what I've said has made me passionate to start this stream. And it's this section right here. Believe it or not, this section right here is what pisses me off more than this, if I'm being fully honest. I cannot stand the narrative gaslighting, because what it does is it completely makes the truth irrelevant. And then when it comes out, it's like the quote, whoever said the quote, a lie will make its way 2 times around the world before the truth even has time to get out of bed and put its pants on. I bet that whoever they said that quote didn't even say the quote, and they were trying to prove a point about that quote, because it's the truth. And I hope that makes sense, what I was just trying to say. But
absolutely,
their own words, they saw things, they heard things.
Okay. So these reports, all these years, they've been calling people like us conspiracy theorists, right? And that's why I put up that little sign, back in March, that I'm just giving you the headlines 6 months early before it comes out, because this is typically what happens. So now that we are no longer conspiracy theorists and we're sharing the documents, that's why I've been trying to get it up so fast on the website. But when you look at this and you think, what are we now? They're the conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And here's what I want to know, Phoenix. What is a conspiracy? I'm serious. Call it a conspiracy theory. You could, and I could be wrong. I'm not trying to not justify what I'm about to say as a theory, as a conspiracy. But what is a conspiracy about waiting 8 hours, saying there was an unconscious person to the dispatcher when there's a quadruple homicide, you seeing the killer, and as you heard on the 911 call, she starts to talk about a man in their house, and you hear, shh, mute it. And it goes mute. Then Bethany's hearing shit and seeing shit. It's always a party house. What is a conspiracy about asking, is that a little weird, right? That I don't get how that's wrong to ask if that's weird.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong. We're questioning. And just like you played on those tapes, some people can hear what they're saying on those tapes when slowed down or sped up. People in here are intelligent, Bertie. I'm telling you. It's like when they draw you a picture and they say, what do you see in this picture? And someone says, I don't see nothing. And someone says, oh, I see a bird. I see this. I see that. Because their minds are creative to actually see and question what they're being asked to do. And, you know, I think about this case and I think about the people involved in this case and why it was so important to keep this hush hush, cause as much chaos and confusion as possible, because now we're seeing what actually was truthful.
Yes. It's not shaming them. It's asking an adult, hey, your roommates were killed. You saw a guy in your house. You heard your roommate scream. Someone's in the house and you ran up the stairs. Can you give me a little bit of reasoning as to why it's noon until you called the cops?
Yeah.
Right?
What was the reason? I mean, the killer, obviously, she saw him. She felt she was being protected. Open and shut the door 4 times. Get your story straight. Why didn't she hire an attorney straight off?
I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't have the document in front of me. So don't quote me on an exact quote. But it was along the lines of feeling as if the person in the house was there to protect her. Something along those lines.
That's what she said. Yeah.
What does that even mean? Again, how is a cop listening to this? After an 8-hour delay, seeing the person, hearing them, and then that the same person, I'm not trying to laugh and make light of it. I'm rather chuckling because of how unbelievable it is that no police officer said, hey, Bill, come here. Let me just talk to you. I was watching from behind that the see-through mirror while you were interrogating her.
Yeah.
Did you pick up on anything that she was saying? She feels like they were there to protect her. Oh, they see her. She opens her door 3 times, hears her roommate yelling, then sees them on the floor, then doesn't call for a half day. Are you drunk, Bill? Do I need to have somebody else go in there and interrogate her? Because clearly you're not capable of hearing what she's actually saying.
Where's the good cop, bad cop? Well, you know, her stepmom was actually a former Ada County prosecutor. So she worked for the district attorney. So that's who her stepmom is. Her real mom works at the University of Idaho in Boise. So she had some connections, but that's why I'm like, how could this person be such a mastermind?
What I'm trying to get at, Phoenix, is 4 people were killed. They didn't have anybody in custody yet. They were telling the community, meaning the chief, police chief, was saying, it's been 4 days. I know that I'm going to mispronounce the victims' names. We don't have any information. I can't answer any of your questions, but you're safe. That tells me one of 2 things. It's either the most obvious case of corruption where the police are helping downplay and omit things that they know could be powerful, muddy the waters for an attorney that comes in and tries to look at them, or they're delaying as much as they can because there is, as Steve G has said in his own words, a parallel investigation going on by the FBI that the Moscow PD was not privy to any of that investigation or information going on.
Correct.
But yet they made it sound like they were working together the whole time. At what points do things start to go south and get suspicious? I think when they can't find the dog, but we're also taking the word of Bethany and Dylan, who they're the only people that can speak on behalf of anything that happened that night.
I think there were other people there. I really do. And I watched about 15 interviews and listened to Steve, and boy, his tune changed towards the end. He was questioning the roommates, and I'm watching his videos and I'm thinking, I think he wasn't okay with what was going on with the investigation, obvious, but he was trying to drop hints along the way. He was against this.
Is Steve either aware of it? Does he know people involved with it? And is he trying to put himself out there saying, like, in a protective manner of, see, I'm
Yeah, you
not
have to
telling
be
the truth
careful.
out there. Yeah, like he's not saying the truth out there. He's signaling through the screen, talking at somebody specifically. This just seems like it would be very easy to work out if there wasn't a reason to be fearful, and it just feels like some sort of payback. This all happening, doesn't it? It feels like
It does.
payback.
Feels like revenge to me.
And to Jacked and Stacked, exactly. It doesn't make sense. I had George Webb on yesterday. If you guys haven't seen that interview, go check it out. We talked about predictive policing, Palantir, kind of the octopus arms of what's happening with law enforcement integrating AI and the powerful
Fabulous
people behind
interview.
it. Yeah, thank you, Phoenix. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's been something where I'm not trying to offend anybody when I say it's a very simple way of looking at it, where it's like, well, then why would he say he was guilty and take the plea deal? He said he's guilty. That's all I need to know.
And it's so hard to explain this to the average person that's never been charged or never been involved with our court systems or the justice system in general. When you are charged, they don't have the power or the authority to just drop anything and say, oh, sorry. There is so many ramifications of lawsuits, return on investment. And what I mean is, if they arrest you and they figure out, oh, shoot, he's factually innocent, you are going to have the biggest lawsuit on your hands. So when they make a plea deal, that's the best that you can walk away from something like this. Because once you're charged, they have you in a chokehold. It's like chess. You have to know which strategy you're going to use to get the best win. And it's sad.
Here's what I want to see, because I think that this is going to be powerful for anybody in the chat that, again, might be new, might be just keeping an open mind and tuning in. Hive, type a 1 if you believe that this was a planned, targeted assassination and not random, or type a 2 if this was random and Brian Kohberger didn't choose this house until moments before going inside. That's a very simple question.
Bertie, I scanned through these documents looking for the smoking gun for Kohberger. There is none.
There isn't.
I had 3 people look at these documents with me, and I said, comb through these documents, find me anything that can prove him guilty or innocent. Show me somebody that has any proof. None. There were 3 other massive suspects better than him.
I have a TikTok that I want to show you guys real quick. Kohberger is not even in the top half of the list. This is of other people that were potential contributors to the DNA on item 13.1. I believe that Ann Taylor locked the state into their story, into their narrative. They showed that this was a single suspect investigation from day one. Documents showing likelihood ratio from an expert that the state fought to not have me put in there. I think Ann Taylor knew the alt perp was going to be shut down. However, now she gets to cross-examine in a way of proving and asking questions that they didn't look at anybody else. She locked the state into their story. Phoenix, what do you make of this? Like, that has to be strategy to put those names in there with Brian's and have him be in the middle of them. And Judge Hippler says, well, that's not good enough for alt suspects. And it's like, well, hang on, Brian's in the middle of those.
Obviously, Ethan's going to be high because they live together. It doesn't make sense why they wouldn't go with the other 2 and go hard after them. And the evidence in the fridge and all that debacle with the samples being maybe contaminated, messed up. I mean,
yeah, that too. For Christ's sake, the evidence fridge breaks with all the DNA evidence in it.
But they roll up the door and they let the air from the cold air out, and to cool it down maybe, and then they go buy a fridge I think it was the same day, but hours later finally plug it in and move the samples. What is up with that? But you know what? ISP did have their own separate samples. So why is not ISP taking this forward and having them reopen this case with the simple fact now that everything's out in the open, we're seeing these from a perspective. Why not have somebody reopen this investigation?
As I've always said, just because if you in your own personal life are not involved with the nefarious activity and you don't think it could happen because it's a stretch, that does not mean that it's not real. And just because you don't know about something doesn't mean that it's not real. It doesn't mean that it's a conspiracy. It doesn't mean that people are lying. It doesn't mean that people in the hive mind have lost their ass. No, it's like you may see this in the movies and may think it's only in the movies. But the reality is this happens in real life. There are very, very, very influential and powerful people that allow drug running, human trafficking, all of these nefarious crimes to continue, either because they're getting a cut, because it benefits somebody that's donated to them in the past. I'm not even going to have to give specifics because everybody in their own minds right now can think of scandals where this has happened. Actually, I will give one specific. I'll give Brett Favre, just because the downfall of Brett Favre being a Packer fan broke my heart. That man needs to leave his phone at home. Okay. But when you then see the text messages that get leaked, when he took from the welfare funds to build that volleyball stadium that his daughter was playing at, it was kind of like, okay, is the mainstream media twisting this? I can admit I had a little bit of a bias, oh God, they're trying to make Brett seem bad. Well, then the text messages come out and you see Brett asking the chair of that fund. Nobody's going to find out about this, right? Come on. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable.
Don't ask the question.
Yeah. Jacked and Stacked, thank you so much for the super chat, had asked, and from the autopsy, all those wounds and deleting 4 people, one being a 6'4" man, done by one person in under 8 minutes? No effing way. And also the crime scene should have been way worse. Well, there's just a lot of discrepancies. There are a lot of discrepancies. There's also different temperaments in those autopsies. Yes. Very different. There's very precise, tactical, lethal shots. And then there's 50 chaotic stab wounds as well. I think you have to ask yourself and be honest, are you trying to get the truth, or are you just dead locked in the way of thinking that nothing's going to exonerate him because he's guilty, because you've been told over and over again? There's a lot of people in the Hive, and I would actually ask Hive, type of 1, if you at one point thought Brian Koberger was guilty throughout this ordeal, because there was times when I started thinking it too. I'm like,
yeah,
oh shit.
Me too. I've had people come to me and say, you know what? I've read some of the documents that you shared on the website, and oh my God, I was wrong. Thank you for opening my eyes. And I'm thinking to myself, a lot of people don't know about the justice system. And one thing I want to make very clear, defense has no power in the court system. And when I say that, the prosecution has all the power. So when people say, oh, the defense went to the prosecution for a plea deal, no, the prosecution was not ready to go to trial. They didn't have any evidence factually. And when the IGG was tossed out by Hippler, they had no way to make the connection. They found Koberger. They could not explain that to a jury. Oh, we just picked this guy at random, because that's what they did.
You guys know, I don't care if anybody thinks that he's guilty or he's not. Just let's make an argument. We're sitting here, we're putting in real time and effort here as the Hive, showing you things, showing you the documents, showing you their own words, showing you the evidence, showing you the DNA likelihood ratios, showing you the interviews, showing you all of this, and we're looking at it through a different lens. If somebody was to come to me right now, Phoenix, I can tell you this. If somebody, and I don't think anybody really would disagree with this, because nobody here wants a murderer to walk free. We want the right person to be behind bars. So what I'm saying is, if there was a video camera in that house or on that house that can show me proof that it's Brian Koberger's car, proof that it's his license plate, proof that Brian's in the car, any one of those, if you could show me Brian Koberger at the house, I'm trying to say, if there was a very obvious thing where it's like he did this, I would have no problem being like, I've been way wrong, and I'm glad that came out because they got the right guy. I want to move on to the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day. And if there's anybody in here that thought that your head was exploding when I'm showing you the real documents and the people's actual words and just reading them out loud, if you thought that that was manipulation, well, hold on to your head so it doesn't explode off of your body, because this tinfoil hat conspiracy today talks about how the moonlight might be fake. Now, I'm not saying necessarily what this picture is depicting, that there's a light shining on the moon. However, there is fringe research that claim objects that are placed under the moonlight become colder. Essentially, what they're showing is that the moon radiates a cooling energy. It challenges basic physics, suggesting that moonlight isn't a reflection at all, but an artificial or manipulated emission of energy. Some theorists even argue that the moon could be a technological construct projecting its own eerie glow to regulate Earth's environment. Ancient cultures often describe the moon as a lamp or, quote, giver of cold light, not a mirror of the sun. The cooling effect has been tied to theories of energetic manipulation. Moonlight is a frequency designed to suppress human vitality. So in this view, lunar cycles are not just gravitational, but they're a part of a system that's controlling human behavior, meaning sleep and fertility. The moon's position and phases may act like a programming signal that goes into our biological makeup, not just with humans, but with all living creatures on Earth, syncing consciousness to artificial rhythms. If this is true, the entire framework of modern astronomy, reflection, orbit, illumination, could be a carefully managed illusion. The theory suggests that moonlight is not just faked. This allows it to be weaponized. And it's not just a natural phenomenon, because the mainstream narrative is saying that the moon only reflects the sunlight, but there's measurements that show it actually has a cooling energy. So I thought that was really interesting. Sometimes the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day, they're a stretch. But this one, I'm like, see, that seems, I could believe that if it regulates your sleep, your consciousness, fertility, not just for humans, but all living things on Earth. I think that could be a thing. I also think that one of the reasons why half the world is awake and half the world's asleep is because the Earth is a living energy mechanism where it needs a certain level of consciousness to be awake, and then it needs a certain level of consciousness to not be awake. So the nights that you can't sleep, you're on a waiting list because there's too many people asleep. And the Earth needs you to be awake.
I love it. I love it. That one makes sense. The cooling.
Yeah.
That makes total sense
I mean?
in our energies. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much to everybody in the Hive Mind. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome to the Hive. I go live every weeknight at 7 p.m. Central, including Sunday evenings. Saturdays are 10 a.m. I have a variety of guests on throughout the week. We dive into all of the topics, and we're not afraid to question the narrative and the headlines. So if that's you, welcome, and you have found your people. Thank you to everybody who sent a super chat. This stream was absolutely unbelievable. The chat, as always, is amazing. Phoenix, you rock. And with that, everybody, I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday evening and go out on Monday morning and crush the week. Cheers, everybody.
Just like old times. Have a good night, Bertie.
Yep. Thanks, Phoenix. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye, Hive.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.